Okay, this is Bill Fleming, and I'm with Spencer Carlough in his home, and today is January 19th, 2012. And yesterday, Spence talked a little bit about his father, so today I'm going to ask Spence some questions about his mother. Spence, what was your mother's name?
Flossie.
Flossie?
Flossie, Flossie.
And
Flossie, and we called her Flossie.
where was she born?
Again in the New Jersey, in the area, Patterson, the industrial area in there. That's as far as I know anyway. That's in Patterson.
Did your mother go to high school? Graduate from high school?
Yes.
Did she?
Yeah, and she was active in her church, the Presbyterian Church. She belonged to the women's social organization, the what is it, the stars, the circles. There was a circle, and that was their social life, and benevolent things.
How old was Flossie when she got married?
When she got married, probably was when my dad got out of service, and that would have when was the Civil War? Not the Civil War, but the War of Cuba.
That was like in 1890 or so, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what year your mother was born?
No.
You don't?
No.
Do you know how old was she when she died?
Well, she was staying with Warren in Clearwater, Florida. She had sold her home in Hackensack, New Jersey. She sold the house, and Warren had a room with bath built off his home, and she lived there and ate there with them and had her own sunroom, but it was a very nice house on right near Warren's beloved American Legion. But she would go for walks around there and knew everybody, very friendly and outgoing, and she had a happy life there.
Now, as you were growing up as a boy, what are some things that you remember about your mother?
Well, my mother, God love her, she kind of ruled a big nest. She had a very large family with the 6 boys and a girl. 5 boys and a girl. 5 or 6. Grace, and then we had a brother die when he was 5 of diphtheria, and he was junior. Then came Herbie, and then Thornton, and Bob, and myself, and Warren.
So it's 5 boys that lived to adulthood and one sister.
Yes.
Yeah, and then Milton was the oldest boy, and he died when he was 5 years old.
Yes.
Okay. Was your mother a good cook?
Yes, well, it was a coordinated effort. It wasn't unusual to see a big pot of potatoes and a roast or ham or a piece of meat, maybe not the best cut, but she did very well probably with her budget. It wasn't known as a budget at the time, but she was very frugal. We did not live in the commutative area or train to take you into the Lexington elevated train. I ran adjacent to the Woodlawn Cemetery where the Lindbergh baby money was transferred, became very recognized in the news as where we lived. But she would think nothing about walking from the L or the Lexington Avenue train up the full way to the cemetery to her house to save 10 cents. And 10 cents a nickel. So it was,
Now, if she didn't walk, how would she go?
pardon?
If she didn't walk, how would she go, on a bus or a train?
She died, as I understand it, from a heart attack. She was out for a walk in Clearwater, and she just passed away at a bus stop.
Oh, okay. Now, when you were growing up, though, she would walk to the grocery store to get the groceries, or would she drive a car?
Well, she never drove. She wanted to drive. She drove from the Bronx up to New Haven on a Sunday, and as an experience. And she got so nervous and sick about the thing. She's no more. I don't want to drive. And she was pretty smart, because driving in New York became a real.
Do you have any particular meals or recipes that she made that you were most fond of?
I don't think she had time to do things like that. Just her involvement with the Eastern Star Women's League, which was out of the church, Bronx Presbyterian Church, and Mr. Hess was our pastor, and we all sang in the choir at one time or another. That was our family life, and we were all active in scouting, and Thornton got to be an Eagle Scout. That was our life.
Your mother's. Did you know your mother's parents?
My mother's parents? No, I don't know.
You didn't? What, did they die before you were born?
My mother's parents. Gosh, I would have.
Your grandparents.
Oh, well, Grandma lived with us.
Grandma lived with you? Your mother's mom lived with you?
Yeah.
What was her name?
Pardon?
What was her name?
Sarah James.
Sarah James.
And then she had a brother, Herbie. And so my mother's family, Aunt Lottie. We used to go up to see Aunt Lottie, who lived in New London. In fact, I've seen the house just recently, where we went to visit her in New London, Connecticut. And Herbie moved into the Boston area for his baking business. And,
now so your grandmother's name was Sarah James. What was her husband's name?
Will.
Will. So Flossie was your mother.
Yeah.
And Flossie's father was Will.
Yeah.
And Flossie's mother was Sarah James.
Yeah.
Did Flossie have any brothers or sisters?
Flossie had Aunt Lottie and Norma's dad, Uncle Herbie.
Herbie. So she had a brother named Herbie.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what I asked you earlier about the type of meals that Flossie cooked.
They were hearty meals.
Hearty meals?
Yeah, there was a lot of stews and the meat you got. And, I mean, at the times I was growing up, there was severe depression, and he provided what would be thought of as a very good life in that time, 1924. It was difficult for the people to live. With depression and money was
Did Flossie
just
ever
get a job? I mean, it was terrible.
Did Flossie ever work outside of the home?
No.
She never did?
Not that I know of.
Did
She
she?
had enough to do with work out of the home, no.
Was she a good housekeeper? She'd keep the house clean?
Well, she got help. She got uh, the older boys and Grace. Got little Grace. She probably ironed enough white shirts for us to go to school.
Was Flossie strict with the boys?
What?
Was Flossie strict? Was she a strict mother?
Oh no, gosh no. She was afraid to say from the strictest. I mean, we were well behaved. If anything, we got to be a showdown with my father because mother says he did this, and I never saw him hit us. I never saw him hit us, but we lived in a well-disciplined house.
So if you did something wrong, your mother would tell your father about it, and your father would scold you.
Right.
So that's who you really were. Who put down the discipline was your father in the family. Okay. Now you mentioned, Spence, that you lived near Lindbergh, the Lindbergh baby. Were you alive? Do you remember when Charles Lindbergh's baby was kidnapped?
Yes.
How old were you when that happened?
Oh, I can't give you a
Was it around 1933? So you would have been.
1927. Lindbergh flew across the ocean.
Do you remember that?
I remember the incident. I didn't see it, or it was history. And later on, the court case, the kidnapping case, was daily in news. What happened was today, and search for the kidnappers.
Now, does Charles Lindbergh live close to where you lived? Where you grew up?
Well, what's close? I mean, probably within 50 miles.
50 miles? Right. Now, the cemetery that you mentioned, was that cemetery near where you lived?
Yeah.
And what happened in that cemetery?
A lot of people died there.
Or were buried there? Now, was Charles Lindbergh's baby buried there?
I think so. Well, probably buried maybe on the Lindberghs were wealthy people. So I don't know where if he was buried in a mausoleum or we just know that historically the Lindbergh baby kidnapping became daily news, and at what step of the kidnapping and the killing of the baby, the transfer of the baby, and that was only a block from my house. We could see where the kidnappers transferred the money for the baby.
So when they got the ransom money, that was a block from your house?
Yeah.
Wow. That was pretty exciting.
Yeah. It was national news, because he was a hero because of his experiences. But and when that became our neighborhood information, it was news. It was international news.
That was at that point. That was kind of the biggest thing that happened in the country up until then with you.
Well, I would say that did for a while there, but the Depression was the biggest thing. People out of work and starving, and no food, and getting a job or getting. We were so fortunate that my father was able to attain a position that he was able to provide very well for his family.
So your family did pretty well during the Depression. Your parents had to be frugal, but you did better than a lot of people.
Oh, yes. Yes. But Mom watched her nickels and dimes, and my father provided, and we lived a happy life. We were a sports-minded family. The New York Yankees and the Giants and all those historical days of mine.
Did you, when you were growing up, did you get to go to many Yankee ball games as a boy?
There was an institution called the PAL, and it was sponsored by the New York City Police Department. And if you could get a PAL badge, you could go to see the Yankees free. They had PAL Day and things like that. That's a day game, not many people that you might have. You would be able to go and watch the Yankees or the Giants.
Who were some of the players that you remember seeing play? Did you get to see Babe Ruth play?
Yes.
Did you? Did you ever see Babe Ruth hit a home run?
No.
You never did?
No. But I can tell you, that goes back. I mean, Babe Ruth was in the shadows of his career. During my lifetime, Joe DiMaggio and Bill Dickey and Frank Rossetti and Bob Duggan. We were more associated with the Yankees because the Yankees were in the Bronx, and you could take the subway and go to the ball game. And the Giants were in Manhattan.
Now, did you?
Dodgers.
When did you? How old were you when you moved to New York?
How old was I?
Because you were born in Washington, D.C.
Right. I was born in 1924 in Washington, Constitution Avenue, and we only lived there about 2 years.
Do you remember what your address was in New York City?
Only through hearsay. I mean, I was in my 2 years old. I had a wagon. That was about it.
No, but I mean, you grew up in the same house, didn't you?
No, 2 years. That's a short time.
No, that was in Washington, D.C. How about in New York City, though?
Oh, once we moved to New York, they got a home on 242nd Street, which was the end of the city. And we lived there about a year until Dad got this other house at 235th Street. And 242nd was like the end of the city.
Mm-hmm.
So we were up at the end of the Bronx, adjacent to Westchester County.
Okay.
All my life.
What was the name of the elementary school you went to?
Pardon?
The elementary school. Which was it, first grade, second grade? What was the name of it?
School 19.
Did you walk to school?
Oh yeah, it's probably 10 blocks to school. Yeah, everybody walked. In fact, we went home for lunch sometimes.
And how, what, did you stay there until like 8th grade?
No, I stayed there until we moved to Hackensack, New Jersey.
How old were you then?
Oh, probably 18.
Oh, so you moved, is that where you graduated from high school in New Jersey, or did you graduate from high school in New York?
In New York.
New York, so you moved to Hackensack after you graduated from high school.
Almost within a year.
What was the name of the high school that you graduated from?
Hackensack High. Public school in 19.
Okay, and what sports did you play there in high school?
Football.
Football, was that the only sport you played?
Yeah, that's really the only sport we had. And organized.
Didn't have baseball? Didn't the team have a baseball team?
Just a church group or something like that got a team together.
What position did you play on the football team?
Pardon what?
What position did you play on the football team?
Oh, I was a catcher.
Catcher. Now that's on baseball.
Yeah.
And on the football team.
See, our football team was a pickup.
Oh. Your high school didn't have an organized football team with uniforms?
The high school did.
Did you play on that team?
I played on the high school team, yeah.
What position did you play? Were you like the center or the quarterback or?
No, I was the running guard.
Running guard.
Yeah.
So you played right next to the center.
Right.
Okay, and you blocked for the running backs and stuff.
The running guard he played next to the center, but he always pulled out of the line to get in front of the runner. The runner would catch off the center and pass it off to, it was beginning of the, I forget what you called it.
Now, did you play on defense as well? Mm-hmm. You tackle the other people and stuff?
Yeah, we played in Randall's Island as a team from Evander High School. You know, Evander High School had a football team, and I played on that. And
because you have a letter sweater from Evander Childs High School, don't you?
I don't. We don't have it.
You had it at one time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that the high school you graduated from, Evander Childs High School? What year did you graduate?
Graduated in 1940, no, 36, well, 1924 plus 18.
Okay, so you graduated in 1942.
Right.
Okay, yeah. Well, when you think back of your mother, when you were as a child, Spence, what are some of your fondest memories of your mother?
She was a loving mother.
That's good.
She was a very loving mother, and her boys were as good as anybody on the block.
That's good. So her boys behaved her. Her
Yeah.
boys behaved her. And her daughter Grace, did her daughter Grace help her out a lot around the house?
Oh yeah, poor old Grace. Yep, her whole life while living at home, she used to say, I have to iron the shirts today. Everybody wore a starched shirt, clean starched shirt.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I think that's enough.
sure.
Unless there's anything else you think you want to say today, Spence?
No, it's just a tribute to my dad. That they were able to raise a family like we did in a diplomatic and available funds and money to get us into a lifestyle which we were all proud of.
That's good. Okay. Well, thank you.
Right?